welcome to Kate's Holistic Healing, your interactive show where we introduce you to different modalities of holistic healing. And today I'm very happy because I have Dr. Lawrence Galante on the show, and he is a hypnotist, and we are going to talk about, well, let's see, what is hypnotist? Why don't you tell people what hypnosis is?
Hypnosis is a process by which you can activate the subconscious mind to move it into alignment with the conscious mind so you can better achieve your goals. So often we find that the conscious mind is wanting one thing and the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind is wanting something else. For example, I may want to stop smoking, but I keep buying cigarettes, so there's a conflict there. So there is some kind of payback you're getting from saying no to that which you are trying to do. So what we do is we can reach the subconscious mind in a very, very relaxed state. So for example, when you're asleep, the subconscious mind becomes dominant and we can have all kinds of crazy dreams. When you're awake, the conscious mind is dominant and it's very rational and logical. The subconscious mind is not at all rational nor logical. So you can have crazy dreams and flying, you could fly through the city, etc. So what we'll do is we want to get the subconscious mind closer to the surface, and we can do that by relaxing the person more and more and getting them to a near sleep state, but yet they're not asleep, and that's a trance state. So for the word hypnosis comes from the Greek god hypnos, which was the god of sleep, because when someone's in hypnosis, it looks as though they're asleep. So actually they are not asleep. The body is very relaxed, yet the mind is extremely alert, and that's a big difference. So they're in like in an alpha or even a deeper state. So what we do is we help someone get into that state, because actually it's a trance state, and people go in and out of trance all the time.
Do they really?
Yes. When you're daydreaming, you're in a trance. When you're watching TV or a movie, you go into trance. When you fall in love, you're in a trance. When you're driving and miss your exit, you were in a trance. So we're often in and out of trance all day. So we actually know how to do it. So what we do, the hypnotist is just a facilitator who helps the person who wants to be hypnotized to go into trance. And once they go into trance, then we feed the subconscious mind, which is now more in the surface, those suggestions which the client, let's say that person that wants to be hypnotized, which the client wants to achieve. For example, you might tell the client under hypnosis that you're a non-smoker, you really hate the taste of cigarettes, and things like that. And for example, with cigarette smoking, hypnosis is one of the most successful modalities for healing. It can have something like an 80% success rate if one, let's say, has 3 sessions of hypnosis. Maybe it's like a 50% success rate after 1 session, but it's something like 80–85% after 3 sessions.
And that's amazing, because having been a former smoker myself, I've seen interviews with people who are heroin addicts, and they say it's much easier to come off heroin than it is to come off cigarettes. Yes,
well, you'll find that at these rehab centers, they're all in the hallway smoking cigarettes. Same with Alcoholics Anonymous and every other anonymous group. They're always smoking cigarettes. Cigarettes, well, of course, they are also physically addicting, and but it's one of the hardest drugs to come off of. And yet, hypnosis has a very high success rate with it. Now, hypnosis can be used for many other things as well. For example, you can use hypnosis to enhance certain skills.
Really?
Yeah, for example, you want to improve your golf game or you want to improve your tennis game. Hypnosis is good for that. You can use hypnosis to remove fears and phobias. Through many techniques. One successful technique is called regression. You can use hypnosis to remember things, and again, that's a kind of regression. And I, for example, have gone to court. Lawyers have hired me to hypnotize their client to help them better remember things.
That's fascinating that it works.
And regression, you know, you can go way back, and some people even claim regress to past lives, and that's a very interesting thing. Brian Weiss, who's a doctor at Columbia University, wrote a book, Many Lives, Many Masters, and what he did was he regressed this woman to the point of where her neurosis started. And that's how we normally use it. It's usually a regression in this life. So normally I would say, okay, Kate, you have a fear of water. Let's go back to the first time you had that fear, and we can hypnotize you, and you'd remember it better under hypnosis. So that's normally how it's done. And when you get a glimpse of that experience, it's almost homeopathic, because you're getting a tiny dose of your illness given back to you. That's
very interesting, right.
So homeopathy is a healing modality as well, which we use at the center. So we normally do that. Now, what he did is he regressed this woman to go back to the origin of her neurosis, and she went back to like ancient France, you know, many, many years before she could have been born. And when he was totally shocked, because he didn't believe in previous lives, in reincarnation. But when he did all the research, he found that such a person did exist with that name, who lived at that address, who died the way she described. So he began studying it more and more. So that book is called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. It's a wonderful book. It
is a wonderful book, and I, for about 30 years, listened to Brian Weiss's hypnotherapy tapes, and that's why I have such a long history of as well.
And you'll find that the more you get hypnotized, the easier it is to go into hypnosis. And then you can do self-hypnosis more easily.
So who is a good candidate for hypnosis?
Well, anybody that wants to be hypnotized and is willing to sort of relax and let go and not fight it can be hypnotized. Now, you can also fight hypnosis. So if you really don't want to be hypnotized, it's very possible that person can't hypnotize you unless maybe they strap you to a chair and deprive you of food for 3 weeks. But maybe then. But normally, anyone can also not be hypnotized. In other words, you are not under the hypnotist's control. You are always in control. So you needn't be afraid. Oh, this guy's going to have me do something I don't want to do.
Right. I mean, I've heard that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis.
Right. All hypnosis actually is, because the hypnotist is only the facilitator that helps you get into a state that you already know how to get into. You just don't know you know how to do it, because we do it so unconsciously all the time. But once you've had experience, and then you do it again and again, you start realizing, well, this is easy and it's fun. And in fact, they found that being in trance is a very healthy state. That's why meditation, in meditation you also go into trance. That's also a healthy state. In prayer you go into trance. So prayer, self-hypnosis, meditation, many of the concentration, like we do Tai Chi or yoga stuff, you can go into trance very easily in these things. Music, repetitive music. So trance is a very actually healthy state to get into for periods of time. So the difference between trance and hypnosis is going into trance and then receiving suggestions that you want to receive in order to achieve a certain goal.
Okay, so people come in with a goal that they would like to achieve, or they just want to experience.
They say, I have a fear of snakes, or I have a fear of flying, or I want to remember what happened to me. Why is it I don't like my mother or father? So those are their goals, or I want to be a better. Someone came to me, for example, with stuttering. The reason I got involved with hypnosis was I saw someone who had been stuttering for 20 years plus, and in like 20, 30 minutes, the stuttering was gone under hypnosis, you know. So I was so blown away by that that I said, wow, this is something I really must look into. I mean, it had always fascinated me on a other level, but I didn't realize it could have such therapeutic physical effects.
I mean, I know the first time I was hypnotized, it was because I was afraid to fly. And you know, and she just had a wonderful meditation, and I was on the plane going through it, just thinking of my magic carpet with the movements of the plane. I haven't been afraid since.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's a very powerful thing. Now, if you regress someone, how far can you regress them?
Well, that's a good question, because many people have been regressed to what they claim is previous lives. Now, we cannot prove it, except like Brian Weiss and people like that. You can kind of prove it, because you can look up who this person was, when they lived, when they died, at that address. So if you want to accept that as proof, that's fine. I mean, this woman had no previous knowledge of this person in France. And there have been other such cases on record. But usually, let's suppose if I were to regress you to a previous life, you may find yourself, you know, in ancient India, you know, as a housewife. You know, there's no way we're going to go prove it. But I say this, whether it is true or whether you conjured it up in your mind, it is no less significant than a dream. And I put a lot of credence that dreams are unconscious ways, or the ways for your unconscious mind to give you a message of some sort, to convey something to you. So at the very least, these images that you are conjuring up are to give you some sort of insight into something.
So do most people come out of it? Because I know when I meditate and do hypnosis, I can make real progress, and I remember when I come out of it, and I've changed for the better.
Right.
And have you ever had any great hypnotic sessions?
Yeah, I've had many wonderful hypnotic sessions. Great, yes. I mean, it's hard to. I don't know what you mean by great, but certainly sessions that have positively affected my life. I have had many of them, and I still use it today, and it is a wonderful modality, and it's so relaxing. Like if you go to a hypnosis convention, I usually teach every year at one or more of the hypnotist conventions. And I mean, everyone there has been hypnotized. They're all hypnotists. Yeah. So you can't become a hypnotist unless you've been hypnotized many times. So when you say, I need a volunteer, I mean, everyone raises their hand. Everyone wants to volunteer because everyone wants to be hypnotized. Or it's very easy to do group hypnosis with such a group. I mean, you just practically snap your fingers and they all go into trance because they're so experienced at it. Yeah. So it's a pleasure to work with them.
So it's so it is difficult always in the beginning, and I know on our show I've gone through I've done a little relaxation, guided imagery, and it is something that the more you do it, the simpler it is and the more beneficial it is. I mean, I've had some wonderful regressions that have just changed my life. Right.
You were telling me about one, why don't you?
Oh yeah, the first time I was regressed into a past life, I went there because I was anxious. I've always had an anxiety disorder, and I used to have seizures because I have epilepsy. So when I would have seizures, I would feel like I was running for my life because I was being chased. I didn't know what was going to kill me, but and so I would run off subway platforms into the traffic. Finally got that worked out. But, so I had this anxiety thing. And then I also, another phase, I never understood why my cats and dogs, when they would growl or get scared, their ruff would stand up and the tails of the cats would get all puffy. They'd make themselves bigger. And I thought that was stupid, because if they were in the wild, and they wanted to protect themselves, you know, another animal could just swipe a lion's mane and grab them. And so I didn't understand nature. But then I had this regression, and I was regressed back into basically like caveman times. And I was in a valley by myself, and in front of me was a very large tiger. And he attacked me. And I remember laying on the ground, grabbing at this fur around his jaws, trying to push him away from me, keep him away from my neck. Anyway, it didn't happen, I died. But when I came out of it, I was like, I lowered my anxiety medication in half. I mean, all my fears went away, because I know I live on the 13th floor in Manhattan. I'm not going to get attacked by a tiger. You know, it's just not
But
rational.
the anxiety that you felt, you sort of were regressed to the point of the initiation of that anxiety. It was by being chased by the tiger.
Right,
And then
and
you had a
killed.
glimpse of it, and it helped you. So it's therapeutic. And sometimes we can't explain why, but we feel the experience. So we don't have to understand why. We can just benefit from the experience that helps us.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to understand everything in life, but we know that there is gravity, and if you step out that window, you're going to fall down. You don't have to understand all the physics behind it.
Exactly.
All you got to do is not step out that window. Right.
Right.
So, yeah, and how far back can you go? I mean, I've had caveman experiences too.
Have you really?
And I've had experiences being in China and being in Japan, and I mean and also being a warrior in these places. Now, one of the things I teach is martial arts, so my interest in martial arts I could see came from past experiences. Or at least that's what I think, because I know I was a warrior like those Japanese warriors with those helmets and those horns on my head. So it was very interesting. I must have been some kind of general in that army. And of course, I had very simple things like being a farmer, or being in the Midwest, being an American Indian. So these are all many things. Are they real? You know, to me, it doesn't matter whether it was real or not. It was insightful, and there was some message given to me, which I then process. So once we have these experiences, we process them, and it starts to make more and more sense to us.
And the messages are really, I mean, I believe it so clearly because when I went to a Dr. Brian Weiss conference and I did my first regression, I realized that well, let me ask you, what color is the sky?
Well, we can perceive it in different colors.
Okay, well then, what color is the sun?
Same thing.
Okay, most people I would
perception,
ask, they would say the sky is blue and the sun is yellow.
Okay.
And because that's how we do our little kindergarten drawing.
Right.
But in this regression, I realized that no, the sky is white and the sun is white. And why would our star be yellow and all the other stars are white? And if you just, all you have to do is look up and you'll see. And mostly the sky is not blue because we live in Manhattan and it's cloudy, we're near the water. But it was just so fascinating. It's like, in a trance, I learned a fact about reality that most people weren't aware of.
Which was?
Which was the sun's white and the sky is white. And it's just, you know, and after I did that, the next morning I went and I was sitting outside the New York Stock Exchange watching the sun come up to see what color it would be. And sure enough, it was white.
You know, you asked how deep you go. I once had an experience where and again, it could be purely imagination, where I was a locust.
Really?
Yeah. And I could perceive things as a locust perceives things. So, I mean, is it real? Or is it in our DNA? Is it possible that we, you know, through evolution, you know, we have all of this embedded in our DNA? Is it possible to somehow contact those hidden messages? Because actually, no one knows the limits of hypnosis. And there's some really remarkable stories about it. And there's something called transpersonal hypnotism, where you start experiencing or examining or exploring things like how much psychic ability can you bring upon for yourself through hypnosis? Can you enhance your psychic ability? Can you experience not only past lives, but life between lives? So if you believe in reincarnation, there's an area between this death and that birth. What were you doing in between? So that's a sort of a newer field, which I'm very interested in, and I do.
And
it's
what
called
is that
Life
called?
Between Lives. LBLs, they call them, Life Between Lives. And those are fascinating experiences, because what you do is you regress someone to a past life. And by the way, I find it's good that people should have some experience being hypnotized first, then going into past lives, and then going into life between lives. So I don't recommend this if you've never been if you've never been hypnotized, to jump in to try to get these deeper states. So you should sort of build up to it slowly and enjoy the journey all the way down or up.
Right, exactly.
So,
and in.
And in, correct. So, but these periods, life between lives, people always or often report meeting their guides. And you can call them their guardian angels, or you can call it your higher self, which is guiding you. Or you can say, there are spirit guides that are there to meet you when you die and to help you not be afraid. And they often talk about being led, and often meeting people that they have known in their life, like their parents who, let's say, have previously died. So they meet other people that have died, and these people greet them. And then their guide taking them to various places, and often asking them what they would like to, where they'd like to go, what they'd like, who they'd like to see, or more importantly, teaching them about this past life that they experience and what it is they learned. And under hypnosis, what I often do is have that person from that past life speak to the person in this life and communicate. So it's really you talking to you, and communicate the lessons that you have learned and the lessons you should be working on in this life. Because, I mean, to me, this life is just a learning ground. It's like a huge school that we're all going through. It's a school where we learn to perfect ourselves in order to evolve to a higher state of being.
And are most people successful in each life? Do they find their path? Do they grow?
Yes, most people do.
Okay.
There's so many. There's one woman that told me she always had this fear that someone was killing someone, and then in this past life she realized that she was the killer in this past life, who she was so fearful of, and it was a big revelation to her that that within her is that capability of being that which she so detested.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was a big revelation to her.
That is amazing to know
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And as you were the general, I have been in past lives. I've always been the slave. But I've had a couple of just walking down paths, and, pushing boulders and stuff, and not very glorious. Never a queen or a king or.
Right. Yeah, I mean, some people say, I was Cleopatra and I was Napoleon and I was.
You're right. And it can only be. They're very rare.
Yeah, except we don't really understand these dimensions. Maybe a part of you we can split up, or who knows.
I know, and get So tell me the lives between lives. That's sort of like talking about what happens after death. So
that's right.
Have you? I know you've done a lot of life between lives regressions on yourself and on others. Are there any commonalities?
Many people do talk. It's very much like if you read the stories of near-death experiences. If you read up on those, so many people talk about being in a tunnel, and then coming out of it and seeing a light, and then often seeing either one or more points of light, which, as they get closer to them, turn out to be beings or angels or whatever. But they are these glorious light beings, and who are extremely loving and kind, so they don't experience fear from them. And now, I don't know if that's true of everybody. I'm sure there's some people that can have negative experiences as well. For example, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they talk about bardos that we go through, and bardos are states after life. And,
really?
And some people, they go through these shadowy bardos, maybe because they have a lot of guilt associated with them for some of their past deeds. And they have to go through these fearful states before they can get to the more peaceful states. And it's sort of like in Catholicism, they talk about purgatory and, or hell or heaven and stuff like that. So, I mean, many of these states we experience in this life. So in a sense, it's just a continuation. We can be in hell right on earth. If you've ever been in war, or even if you've seen movies of the hell of war and how horrible people can be towards each other.
Right, and where they can torture just for the enjoyment of it seems.
Right, and so we can be in hell, or people in insane asylums that are suffering. You can see people suffering. And other people in these insane asylums are actually experiencing like a blissful state, and you know, we don't know, are they really in bliss, are they saint-like, or are they insane? That point between psychosis and revelation sometimes is very very narrow and very tricky, and you know, the Catholic Church has trouble distinguishing whether is this person a lunatic or are they really a saint, you know?
Right, yeah. And, well, I mean,
yeah,
we know this.
But both states,
yes,
it's the subconscious mind starts flooding the conscious mind. And if you can't, it's the same thing with LSD. People take LSD and have horrible experiences. Others have wonderful experiences. Because if you're not ready for that unconscious mind to manifest into your conscious mind, well, you're just not ready. You get flooded and overwhelmed. Meditation, by the way, is one of the best preparations for any of those higher states.
Which is good, because that's why on the show we do these brief guided imagery meditations to try to get you more used to.
That's right, and that's a trance state. And a lot of times I ask people, do you meditate? And they say yes. I say, okay, go into meditation, then I'll hypnotize you from there. Because they're practically there.
It's a very great thing. Now, how about you in your life? Have you ever had any experiences in regressions that have changed your...
Yeah, I think I've had many experiences. I just know that it's been like step by step along the way. And I mean, there's so many ways of learning. I mean, it's not the only way of learning. And it's just a great tool. I just want to say it's a great tool for someone to have in their toolbox to be able to pull out when they need it and to know what it's capable of doing. It'll always help you. And even, you know, you read Carnegie and all these people, they talk about having a positive outlook on life and stuff. And this can help you by starting, you know, it can sort of change your unconscious mind. And that's, so sometimes if you repeat something over and over, you find that it finally sinks into your conscious mind, and it sinks down into your unconscious mind. When you do it over and over again, if you say to yourself, for example, every day I'm getting better and better in every way, if you just say it, it'll sink to your subconscious. We want to make changes not only on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. And those are the changes that are going to stick.
And those are why it's such a successful practice, because they really do stick when you get into people and you can talk to them in a conscious, unconscious
And regular therapy tries to do that too. They try to do regression and stuff, but they talk you through it and they don't hypnotize you, and it usually just takes so much longer.
Oh yeah, it's something like, I think it's 33 sessions with a psychiatrist. You can have some improvement. One session with hypnotherapy, you can have like a 97% rate of improvement. I mean, it's just because it's so much more focusing on, and when you meditate and do the hypnosis, you can just get just your thoughts, and all the noise goes away, and we can use so much more of our brain. At least it's what it feels like when I do that.
Yeah, because we only use like 10% of our brain consciously.
Well, I should. I want to thank you very much for coming on and telling us. Is there anything that you can give our audience as a takeaway that they could they start to, or just get in touch with Lawrence Galante?
Yeah, they can get in touch with me.
Right, and have a wonderful experience. And you can always find me in the Center for
Holistic Arts. I'm on the web, Center for Holistic Arts.
Yes, and he's also on Kate's Holistic Healing on our website, so you can reach him either way. Well, I very much want to thank you, Lawrence, for coming down and educating me and our audience about hypnosis and all its benefits. And watch for us on a weekly basis. We're on Mondays at 2:30. And tune in next time for more Kate's Holistic Healing.